the Sears Center Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, about 30 miles northwest of Chicago. We're on this first weekend in March. It is the 43rd edition of the American Cup, the most important international competition held in the United States each year. American Yul Moldauer is the defending champion for the men from this event. He's also the leader today after 2 rotations. 2 Americans in the top 4 at the moment. Alongside Moldauer, Alan Bauer in 4th place. Steve Schlanger with the Olympic gold medalists, Tim Daggett, Nastia Lukin, Andrea Joyce is also with us. And Moldauer, a terrific start to the defense of his crown from a year ago.
Yeah, this is a great spot that he finds himself in. Floor exercise was his first event. Absolutely fantastic. Almost halfway through the competition here and has a great lead.
Yeah, his breakout really came at the American Cup. In the gymnastics circle in the United States, everybody has been talking about this kid since he was a little boy. Such an unbelievable talent. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and just really an elegant gymnast. He won the American Cup last year, won the national title in the all-around, went to the World Championships, and I was in Montreal, and I'll tell you what, there was a buzz about Yul Moldauer. So clean, his execution. People were coming up to me. It was like, wow, where did this kid come from? I say, I've been watching him since he was a little boy, but just a really classy looking gymnast, and he deals with the pressure typically very well.
Got to talk to him earlier this week and spend some time with him. He showed me the background of his iPhone, the logo of Tokyo 2020.
Did not make the team for Rio, and that's made him even more motivated, hungry, already preparing for the next Olympic Games.
Was actually 5th all around at the final Olympic trials. He's so light, and so he makes these strength parts look effortless. You see, he opens his hand right there. He does that to telegraph to the judges, I am not on my wrists at all, which would make the lever arm shorter and make it easier. Does it here as well. Tremendous swinger as well. And then right back to that cross, just freezing. Doesn't have the most difficulty in the world, but certainly one of the cleanest gymnasts that you'll ever see, and he can stick too. Watch this, double-double. Oh! Yikes! That is really good news for Yul and really bad for everybody else.
On a roll here just outside Chicago. We'll get his score in a moment. Meantime, over on the vault, this is the American Maile O'Keefe, who turned 16 years of age earlier this week.
She'll do a double twisting, laid out Yurchenko.
And that was good. That was a great start right here on the vault. Good form in the air, got some great height, and let's look right here. So we're gonna look for extension right off the vault, little bit of toes in the air, crossed over each other, so that'll be some deduction, but great landing. You see the chest up.
But I'll tell you what, you never know how an athlete is going to perform until they're in that situation. This American Cup, it's on podium. It's obviously being televised live. It is one of the events that every kid that is in this competition, certainly the Americans, they dream of winning an Olympic gold medal, a World Championships, a national title, and they want to be American Cup champion. She rose to the pressure right there.
And a green color is a good score, as you see, 14.6. Less than a point of deductions, and this is the color-coded scoring system that just helps simplify what the judges are thinking. Green is good, red is a poor score, and yellow is kind of everything in between.
There are 2 components to the score. One starts at a 10, And that's what we just showed you right there, deductions. The other part is the difficulty, what they do, and that's additive. The more you do, the higher your potential score.
So Tim, as you mentioned, this is her first year as a senior athlete, was of course the junior national champion last year, and if we put her scores roughly, would have placed her second in the senior division.
Well, here is the American Morgan Hurd, reigning world champion. She was set to go on the vault a little while ago, but then had to wait because of an injury to the athlete who preceded her, and it caused a delay of about 15 minutes. Mao Yi suffered an injury on a fall coming off the vault, has been taken to a local hospital.
It was so long, they had to give the athletes another warm-up period, and Morgan was first up. And this is her vault. That double twist. Really nice. Good power. A big hop on the landing, but overall, pretty darn good.
But you know, Tim, that's exactly what she told us all week. Is she said, I feel like my difficulty is there, but that's what I want to work on. My execution, my landing specifically on every single event, including this one right here. Good form in the air, little bit of a pike down towards the end, but that was a big hop.
How tough is it to wait through that kind of a delay, something that's rather unusual?
Very unusual, and you know, this is, of course, she's competed at the World Championships, but the American Cup is a big competition, a lot of pressure, especially now coming in as the reigning world champion, but she handled it so well.
And you know, not just the weight, but you know, it was a pretty significant injury that Mao Yi sustained.
Very scary to watch, and I'm hoping none of these athletes were watching when it happened.
And now back over to the rings and the men. Yul Moldauer a score of 14.3. So he has seized upon some momentum here today at the American Cup.
I believe he's the only athlete on the men's side that has had 3 scores that are all in the green. Floor exercise was great. His second event, pommel horse, tremendous, and a really beautiful routine on rings. Capped it off with that stuck landing. He was 7th all around at the World Championships, but earlier today on the floor exercise, 2.5 twist, small little hop. That was probably the biggest air he had in the whole exercise. Triple full at the end, and just a teensy hop forward. On pommel horse, huge difficulty. Watch this. He'll turn his body the opposite way. Those are called spindles, and after a grueling routine, just zooms up to a handstand.
The American Cup is brought to you by USA Gymnastics Safe Sport. Together we can. And by the National Gymnastics Foundation Athlete Assistance Fund. We are just northwest of Chicago in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, and after 3 rotation on the men's side, it is the American Yul Moldauer trying to defend his title at this event from a year ago. He's the leader over Sunway of China, James Hall of Great Britain, and Moldauer's fellow American Alan Bauer, who was down there in 4th. Meanwhile, on the women's side, it is Maile O'Keefe, the American, at the top of the standings after their first rotation on the vault. The reigning world champion Morgan Hurd of the U.S., not too far off the pace, though. She is in 3rd. And we welcome you to the Sears Center Arena here in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Steve Schlanger flanked by the Olympic champions, Tim Daggett and Nastia Lukin. And now that the Winter Olympic Games have been put to bed, it's Tokyo 2020 on the clock, the Summer Olympics up next, and the path to Tokyo really is starting to take shape with a very prestigious international event like this.
It absolutely is, and what an amazing experience, both for Morgan and Maile and the rest of the field. But this is exactly what they are getting ready for. The World Championships later this year, but Tokyo, of course, is on all of their minds, and this is a great preparation for that.
Hey, I'll tell you what, so far, Yul Moldauer has been spectacular. We're halfway through the men's competition. He has 3/4 of a point lead over the second gymnast. He really just needs to stay clean the rest of the way, and he's going to win 2 in a row. And this is a great field. Kenzo Shirai, one of the top gymnasts, floor exercise world champion, vaulting world champion, a bronze medalist at the last Worlds. You know, it's a good field. He has struggled so far.
Last year was really the breakout year for Yul Moldauer. Not only did he win this American Cup, he also Las Vegas. And now over to the 21-year-old Yul Moldauer from the University of Oklahoma, the leader after 3 rotations here at the Sears Center Arena.
By 3/4 of a point. He doesn't have the hardest vault in the competition. Both Kenzo Shirai and Sun Wei do a more difficult one. Yul is going to do, it's a Sukahara style vault named after the great Japanese gymnast, but he'll add 2.5 twists to it. Oh man, I'll tell you what, he just makes it look so darny too easy, because that is not easy to do. It's relatively a blind landing, and
he anticipating her score, which is coming up in a moment. Yul Moldauer on the vault, 14.7.
That is a giant number. Look at that, less than 1/2 point in deductions. That is a rare thing to see in gymnastics at this point.
And now supporting his teammate Alan Bauer, who was up next.
Alan Bauer was team captain.
And her score coming up. Yul Moldauer, the very charismatic 21-year-old American, in a good spot on the men's side. He's the leader here in Chicago. NBC. Back in Chicago at the American Cup, and the standings for the men. After 4 rotations, it's the 21-year-old American Yul Moldauer who has the lead over Sun Wei of China. Fellow American Alan Bauer rounding out the top 4. While over on the women's side, still working their way through the early rotations at the American Cup. 2 down, and it's the reigning world champion Morgan Hurd, the 16-year-old, who is leading the way. Once again, Steve Schlanger alongside Tim Daggett and Nastia Lukin. And as far as Yul Moldauer, he has been on a roll. Got off to a strong start on the floor and has really just been building throughout the day.
Absolutely. You know what? I have seen Yul have a lot of great competitions, but honestly, I think this is the best he has ever looked. He is on track to win 2 American Cups in a row. That is a very elite group of athletes that have done that.
And as far as Morgan Hurd on the women's side, coming off that World Championship title in Montreal last year, what a sensational moment for this young woman.
It absolutely was. She came in maybe not necessarily as the favorite to win the gold medal. Of course, teammate Reagan Smith went down moments before the competition started, but she delivered a performance of a lifetime. Best in the world. When we talked to her earlier this week, we said, what is it like to be the best in the world? She goes, me? I don't think you're talking about me. It's very cute.
Yul Moldauer hopes to keep the momentum rolling here at the American Cup. We'll see him as we continue from the Sears Center Arena. It is always such a compelling event, a unique blend of decorated Olympic medalists, world champions, up-and-comers making their senior level debuts. So a chance to mingle with so many different types of gymnasts from around the world and serve as a yardstick for where you're at.
Absolutely, and you know, her sister Victoria, she was 3rd in the all-around at the 2013 American Cup, and she did that in Simone Biles' coming out party. Simone didn't win that. Caitlin Ohashi won it. Simone was 2nd, and we have learned this week that Simone Biles is back on the U.S. national team, and that's a good thing for her. But I'll tell you what, all around the world, everybody is going, oh gosh.
And in order to be placed back on that national team, she had to submit her current training videos to that selection committee, who said, yep, you're ready to go.
But I'll tell you what, though, it's just Maria Paseka, who is a tremendous gymnast from Russia, world champion on vaulting, just an unbelievable athlete. She was quoted as saying when she heard Simone was coming back, it was like, please don't come back. You have too many medals already. Let us have some.
Give someone else a chance.
How long would it take someone like Simone Biles, with her immense talent, to get back to her top form?
Well, you know, she never let herself get completely out of shape, you know, and she is just, not only is she a great gymnast, but she's a phenomenal athlete. And so things come easier for her, and she can get back into shape a little quicker.
Yul Moldauer trying to maintain his position at the top of the standings.
This is actually my favorite routine for Yul. Beautiful execution. Now, watch this right here. We're going to do a giant and then one more. Well, look, spin on one arm. I'll tell you what, gymnasts dream of having error-free days like Yul has had. This doesn't happen very often nowadays. Big dismount, double front half. He can stick that, but another really solid exercise for Yul Moldauer.
National silver medalist on the parallel bars. And Yul Moldauer, a comprehensive performance here today at the American Cup. And Morgan Hurd, the reigning world champion for the U.S., is up next when we continue. A 14.5 on the parallel bars for Yul Moldauer, who continues his march to what he hopes will be back-to-back titles at this American Cup.
And as I said, that's another green. 5 events in the green. Doesn't happen.
He was sick on Thursday during the warm-ups for this event, was trying to get over that, and I would say that he has conquered the illness coming in here today and really got off to that hot start and has not looked back.
What up to the OU guys, all my friends back in Colorado.
Had a bit of a fever on Thursday.
And now Morgan Hurd, the leader on the women's side.
I got to spend quite a little bit of time with her in Texas a few weekends ago, and I was just so surprised. I've gotten to know her over the years, but so surprised about how mature she really is. Acted way beyond her age. It's fun to spend some time with her outside the gym, but she not only is mature outside of the gym, but really inside the gym as well. Handles the pressure, the adversity really well.
Yeah, her coaches say that one of the major reasons for her success is she is an absolute workhorse, taking 2 to 3 turns more than every other gymnast in the gym.
She says her teammates get a little mad at her sometimes because she'll jump in when no one's on the bar and they'll say, hey, that was my turn. Well, no one else was going.
Now, she lives with her mom, Sherry, in Delaware, just about an hour outside of Philadelphia. And her mom says, I don't know where she got all of these skills in terms of the organization, the independence, the poise, and the maturity. I didn't have any of that, but she's just had it since I can remember.
Yeah, talk about an early achiever. She says that ever since 3, I knew I wanted to win the Olympics. Not go to the Olympics, win the Olympics.
What took so long? 3 years of age?
Telling herself something, maybe singing a song here. Whatever gets you in the zone.
All rise for Premier League mornings on NBCSN. It's one of football's biggest rivalries as Liverpool visit the Theatre of Dreams to take on Manchester United. Always compelling at Old Trafford, and it's next Saturday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN. Today in Chicago, it is Morgan Hurd, the 16-year-old American reigning world champion, the leader after 3 rotations at this American Cup, but 2 Americans in the top 3. You also have Maile O'Keefe, just over a point and a half back. While on the men's side, it is Yul Moldauer, the 21-year-old from the University of Oklahoma, looking to win this event for the 2nd year in a row. He is the leader by over 2.5 points. Well, Yul and Morgan have been simply spectacular here at the American Cup this afternoon. And as far as Yul, what has stuck out the most about his performance through all of these rotations?
Well, as close to perfection as I've seen any gymnast be. I mean, he has been phenomenal from the very start till his last dismount on parallel bars. He's got over 2.5 points of a lead. He can fall once, maybe twice on high bar and win his second in a row American Cup.
And Asti, as far as Morgan Hurd coming off the momentum of the World Championships last year, but first time at this American Cup, and she is not disappointed.
Not one bit, and she has showed exactly what she did at the World Championships. She is prepared, she's capable to not only handle the pressure, the nerves, the expectations. She has almost a point lead here going into the final event. Great floor routine coming up, but she has even more things planned. She showed me a few videos on her iPhone. Just wait later this season.
So Morgan Hurd back to action as we continue from the American Cup. Reigning national all-around champion, reigning American Cup champion, NCAA champion Yul Moldauer. And the American at this rate poised for his second win at the American Cup. If he keeps this momentum rolling along and showing no signs of slowing down. Now born in Seoul, South Korea, adopted before he was 1 year old, grew up on a farm in Colorado before attending the University of Oklahoma, where he really started to mature, come into his own, and then last year the breakout year, and boy, the potential for Yul Moldauer just sky high.
Absolutely, and you know, ever since he was a little kid, he has been surrounded by the Olympics, Olympianism. Sasha Artemov, a teammate of his who he trained with, was the 2008 Olympic bronze medalist on pommel horse. So from a very young age, Yul saw greatness every single day.
Now, not the performance he wanted, but Yul Moldauer has been rolling as he brings us to the conclusion of the American Cup, looking for the win after this. The American Cup has been brought to you by Gymnastics Safe Sport. Together we can. And by the National Gymnastics Foundation Athlete Assistance Fund. Working our way towards the end of the American Cup in Chicago, an event that's been held since 1976, and the 16-year-old American Morgan Hurd, the leader by almost a point. Her fellow American Maile O'Keefe also in the top three.
But Mai Murakami, you can't count her out. She's in second place, about a point behind, but she is the world champion on floor exercise. Morgan's got a hit.
A backhand straight for the win!
So the warm-up continues for Morgan Hurd, while for the men, it is Yul Moldauer trying to defend his title from a year ago and well on his way with a lead of over 2.5 points.
Yeah, really, he's just got to grab the bar a bunch of times. And if he does that, it's an absolute that he will repeat as the American Cup champion.
For the win!
If there's one event where Yul does struggle a little bit, it's high bar. He's so quick that sometimes he gets going too fast on his prep skills, like before the major releases, and he can just fly past the bar.
So this is his warm-up. He'll be the final athlete to go in the final rotation for the men. Well, all of these athletes coming together here. First premier international event of the year. Biggest on U.S. soil, but everybody looking ahead at 2020 and Tokyo. Now that the Winter Olympics are in the rearview mirror, Tokyo is on the clock. And as far as the path to those next summer games, where do these athletes want to be going forward from this event?
Well, you know, the World Championships that are going to be held in the fall, they are the first qualifying for the Olympic Games. The top 3 teams will earn a berth for the Olympics at that championships. And one of the things that's important to note, teams have been 5-person teams up until this point in the last couple of Olympic Games. It will be a 4-person team, but there are 2, it's very complicated, 2 athletes that can qualify as an individual or an individual all-around gymnast.
And you know, it's not only just about having a great showing at the Olympic trials right before the Olympic Games. They are going to be looking back at previous world championships, international competitions. So it is going to be really important starting right here today to be as consistent as possible now leading up to the Olympic Games.
And Nestor Abad of Spain in 9th place after 5 rotations. Native of Madrid, will turn 25 at the end of this month. He was in Rio, part of the Spanish team at the Olympics in Brazil, and trying to overcome a series of injuries over the years.
And I love this. He said, if you have a dream, protect it. People who cannot do it by themselves will tell you that neither can you. But if you want it, go and get it. How true, Nastia, huh?
Love that. This is actually his favorite event.
Nice release there. Showed good height.
Little leg separation right there, but finished on top of the bar.
Another variation of a... Oh my gosh. And that right there is because he was not exactly in the moment. He was thinking about what was coming, because it basically would have taken like 2 pounds of pressure just pulling on the bar just a little bit harder. I mean, this is fine here. He just lets go of that hand that's on the bar and doesn't yank himself over enough.
And I guarantee you when he does that in training, that probably never happens. And if it does, very rarely, because he is in that moment.
I like this guy a lot, though. Has a lot of the qualities you need to be a tremendous athlete. Didn't show that to us today at the American Cup, but he'll be back.
So funny. It sounds simple to say be in the moment, but as an athlete, you guys know best. You're always looking back at a mistake or looking ahead at what you have to do next. It's not that easy to be right there in that moment.
Well, everything happens so quickly, especially on the events like the high bar for women, the uneven bars. It's one skill after another, so many times connected, and that is what makes it so difficult. But you do have to stay in that moment thinking only about the skill that you're currently doing, then you quickly move on to the next.
That's what the great people do. The great athletes are able to control negative thought and to stay exactly in the moment, in my opinion.
And finish strong like that.
So the men just getting underway in their final rotation at this American Cup. Yul Moldauer of the U.S., our leader, will be last. Nestor Abad kicking things off.
He talks about gymnastics, and he says that it has never stopped being a hobby, being fun, and I hope it never will. It's what helps me to dedicate all the time and the passion to this sport that I love so much.
He made a bet with his father one time that if he won the Spanish national championships, he would give up smoking. He won and has not had a cigarette since.
That's great. I read that, and I was just so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
And now on the high bar. Final routine for Yul Moldauer of the U.S. He needs better than a 10.999. So, Tim, that begs the question, how many times can he fall and still win?
He can fall absolutely once, most likely twice, but more than that, Yul could do the routine that he competed when he was about 11 years old and win this American Cup. Nice one-arm giant. But once again, this one needs to go right to a handstand. This is where he has to be careful. Sometimes he gets going too fast. Not that one. Been able to do this since he was about 9 years old, I bet. Full twisting double layout, your chance. 2 in a row for Yul Moldauer.
A convincing, demonstrative performance by Yul Moldauer to win his 2nd straight American Cup.
And you know, it's not just a great day for Yul. USA Gymnastics at the last 2 Olympic Games, they've really underperformed. 8 years ago, they led after qualifying, finished a dismal 5th. At the last Olympics, they were 2nd after qualifying, out of the medals again with 5th. But Yul has the consistency that the Team USA has been lacking. That release that I was talking about, where sometimes he gets going just a little bit too fast. And this was fast. If I were in the gym, I would have said, slow down a little bit, Yul, but the timing is good. Let's go nice and early. Watch him looking for that bar. Latches on, straight arms afterwards.
And that dismount, Tim, I just have to say it because you didn't say it all day. Gymnastics 101, fly high and stick the landing.
Stop stealing my stuff.
What he's done all day long.
So Yul Moldauer, Morgan Hurd, champions in 2018, and now they're both with Andrea.
Well, we talked about Morgan loving Harry Potter, and it did feel like there was a little bit of magic out there. Can you describe what this is like for you to follow up that World Championship with this American Cup title?
I just feel ecstatic. I got home from Worlds and I just didn't stop training. I still worked 110% every day, getting back into that routine shape. Took a few days off, but that's about it. And I'm just glad to see my hard work pay off.
So you had said a year ago that you were worried about your lack of consistency. What's different for you now?
I think Worlds definitely helped me gain my consistency a lot and just gain my confidence. I try to focus on like one skill at a time. I don't rush ahead of myself anymore.
Okay, congratulations, and you'll talk about consistency. You're the first guy in over a decade to win back-to-back American Cup titles. Last year sort of launched your breakthrough season. What does this one mean for you?
You know, it's special. You know, I want to thank 5280. I want to thank my coaches, Vlad and Arena, and I want to thank all the guys at OU and Mark, Taki, and C for just helping get to where I'm at today. And every day I get to come out and represent USA. It's a big honor because it's something special. You get to represent your country.
Tim Daggett said he thought this was the best he had ever seen you compete. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely things I know in my head that I still need to fix. Landings, of course. My height.
Yeah, it was so bad.
Well, you know, there's always something you can be doing. So I always, you know, take this meet and look at it, see what I need to work on, and just move on from there.
All right, congratulations. Steve?
Andrea, thank you very much. What stood out the most about Moldauer here today, Tim?
Consistently, start to finish, just being darn near perfect.
As he gets the win ahead of James Hall and Petro Pekniuk, while on the women's side, it's Morgan Hurd, really with her back up against the wall because of Murakami, but she answered the challenge.
She absolutely did. She showed the world one more time what she's capable of doing. Shed so much light on the sport of gymnastics here today.
Thanks for supporting.
There are your winners, Hurd and Moldauer. And tonight at 8 on NBC, the NHL Stadium Series heads to Annapolis in the Naval Academy as the Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Washington Capitals. Coming up next on NBC, it's the third round of the WGC Mexico Championship. And now for Nastia Lukin, Tim Daggett, and Andrea Joyce, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us, everyone, as Hurd and Moldauer are the winners in 2018 as we say so long from the American Cup.
Just brilliant.
Double goal. Boy, does he deliver. The most dominant in Olympic history. Unbelievable.
This has been a presentation of the Olympic Channel, home of Team USA.